There's just something about two robots punching each other that's just so satisfying. Oh, hey, that reminds me. Remember? Hey everybody, how's it going? I am Lazy Dude. Welcome to another review. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. Basically, this is a new video series. I don't know if I'm going to be doing a whole lot of these. Maybe I'll just do this one. But it's basically an excuse for me to do a video on any movie that I want, or maybe TV show or whatever. And so this is, remember Real Steel? I mean, if you think of it, do you remember that movie? It came out in 2011, starring Hugh Jackman, and it was a movie about robots fighting together, and the one thing you'll probably remember that is that every single review of this movie started the same, with a reference to Rockem Sockem Robots.
Somebody really did want to make a Rockem Sockem Robots movie.
This is essentially 2 hours and 7 minutes of Rockem Sockem Robots, is it not?
Real Steel, which is like the Karate Kid of Rockem Sockem Robots.
It looks like Rockem Sockem Robots.
Yeah, it became such a thing that even people were referencing it in their reviews, how everyone was doing it.
No doubt 99% of people are going to make a Rockem Sockem Robots reference in the intro to their video.
Where everybody fights with Rockem Sockem Robots! Oh, well, Transformers? Transmorphers. Hooray!
The basic story about Real Steel is about a man named Charlie who is a ex-boxer, and he's an ex-boxer because boxing is out, because robot boxing is a thing of the future, where robots are pummeling each other, gear. It's no longer a battle of blood, it's a battle of oil, and but they're still in a boxing ring. The same boxing rules apply, I guess, except for in this case, the opponent's head could literally come flying off. Just like Rockem Sockem. Okay, I'm not gonna make any references. Okay, that's my pledge. Starting now. So Charlie is a robot boxer manager, but the problem is he's not very good at it. He keeps on overextending himself, taking large bets and lending large amounts of money that he owes out to everybody. Keep on hoping to make it big and to do it well, but he keeps on screwing it up and gets himself in worse and worse shape. And the movie just starts out right there where he's like, hey, I got my robot and I'm fighting, what, you think another robot? No, he's fighting a bull. Yeah, he's gone to the point where he's going to the county fair and fighting a bull. First of all, this is a world that definitely does not have a animal safety organization, because can you imagine, like, people go nuts about rodeos now, and that's just with humans doing it. Can you imagine if, like, an animal activist group came across a rodeo that did this? Also, that bull must be like a robot itself, because I've never seen a bull be able to take a hit like that and just get up and keep going. But anyway, his ex-girlfriend, who he had a child with, dies, which leaves him in a little bit in the lurch for, now he has a son that he needs to take care of. A son that he knew about, but is never really been there for and hasn't really tried to ever be there for. And now he's, like, still not wanting to be there for, but he finds a little bit of a scheme that his ex-girlfriend's sister really wants to adopt Max, the child, but he has the parental rights, so he makes a deal with his ex-girlfriend's sister's husband, saying, hey, because since he's really rich, he's like, hey, you give me money and I'll let you have Max. Basically selling him, so, yeah.
Deborah really wants to adopt Max, and I'm up for it, but...
75 grand.
The only hitch is he has to take Max for the summer, and so he agrees, and of course they go on a father-son bonding trip along the way and learning more and more about each other.
It's been a long time. I'm your...
You screwed me.
Nice mouth.
Do you know where they're going?
Italy?
Yeah, Italy. So how did I get stuck here with you?
Relax, kid. You got a whole life of fine living ahead of you.
And also finding a sparring robot that everyone else thinks is worthless junk, but turns out to be pretty good in a fight.
Watch that, watch that.
I got that.
So basically, for this, I'm going to review this a little bit differently from when I review most of my reviews. I'm breaking this down into different categories, and then we're going to ask the question at the end of this, do you remember Real Steel, and is it worth remembering? So let's go into our first topic of the characters. But for the characters, let's start with our main character of Charlie, played by Hugh Jackman. Charlie is a dick.
100,000?
You heard me.
You're crazy.
I'm not nearly as crazy as your wife. You tell her I just signed over that kid to the state of Texas. The way I see it, there's a real way everyone gets what they want here.
And I don't mean like he's slightly, he's slightly just rude and obnoxious and a little full of himself. Charlie is a terrible person at the start of this movie. I mean, he hears how his ex-girlfriend is dead, and the first thing he says when they ask him if he knows anything about his son is...
Is he dead too?
No, he's fine.
Is he dead too? What? Are you hoping he is? My gosh, that is some... That's messed up, dude. I mean, he is literally one of the worst fathers I've ever seen in this movie. First, he really doesn't give a crap about his son until later in the film. But also, he says stuff like with such disregard, like, yeah, can I just sign this thing? He'll be gone.
I'm here to sign some paper that releases my rights to the custody of my son. That's why I'm here. Do I need to be here?
He doesn't rush forward to grab him when he's on the edge of a cliff. He only casually says, hey, don't go that far. When his son then almost dies and says, hey, here's a robot. We should help dig it up. He doesn't do anything. He says, you dig it up yourself. I'm out.
Could you just bring the cart to the edge? I'll use the winch to get him out.
You want that piece of junk? You get the cart yourself. I'm through here.
And it just waits there for him to dig it up for the next morning. But of course, as the film goes on, he grows an attachment to the boy. They start to grow a bond with each other. But I will say, I do like the way it happens. The kid isn't just like, he isn't just like actively just like, oh, you're the worst dad in the world. He doesn't even bring that up. He doesn't even bring up the fact that you were never there for me or anything like that. He's just like, you screwed myself out of a great vacation. And the kid is always looking at an angle and stuff to, get himself ahead. When I do like that in the very beginning, he finds out that Charlie basically sold him to his ex-girlfriend's sister, to the boy's aunt.
You sold me for 50 grand. You owe me half.
I don't have it. I spent the money on a robot. It's gone. Okay? Gone. I'm through here.
He basically sold him to her, and he's like, you sold me? He's like, yeah, I kind of did. And yeah, it's an extremely dickish thing to do, but I kind of like that they didn't just like do the cliched thing where it's like a lie revealed, where at the end he's like, you mean you didn't even want me here? I thought you wanted me so we could have a father-body time, but you sold me, Dad! You sold me! Oh! They didn't do any of that. He's just straight up with him from the start. But I like that because it comes at it at a different angle. I mean, everyone knows straight up what the stakes are, and yet they still form a bond despite all that, and that makes things hard because now Hugh Jackman's character is dealing with the guilt of having to have abandoned his son and also going to be doing it again. And also feeling guilty because he does have a body. He does care about him now. And the kid, I think, is actually really good in this movie. I think he's a little bit of the classic, I'm so sassy, or I'm an adult, I'm an older kid, older than my years and smart. And he is smart, and I like that he's smart, and I like that he has an affinity for robot boxing and actually knows a whole lot about it and how it works.
I've watched that fight with Rubicon like 20 times. He should have had him in the third round, but Rubicon got lucky with a huge right.
And I feel like he acts like mostly the way most kids would act. I swear, the behavior that this kid acts, it reminds me so much about one of the kids I worked with when I was a respite worker.
I'm either coming with you, or you're fishing for your keys in the sewer. Your choice. What's gonna be, old man? Oh my God, that was close, wasn't it? Oh.
Don't do that again.
And I like how, he's first is like, I don't care about my dad. Ooh, giant robots. Like any boy would. not everyone has a great relationship with their parents, but you gotta admit, if you had a bad relationship with your father, and then you found out that he did a robot boxing ring, and that he had a robot boxer, you'd kind of at least be interested enough to check it out, And then when they do finally develop that father-son dynamic with each other, and Hugh Jackman and this kid have great chemistry with each other, because when they are acting like father-son, they feel like a real father and son.
Thanks, man. Look at this. Let's celebrate.
Yeah.
All right, 70-30, right?
Yeah, 70 for me and 30 for you. That's
very
so
funny.
great.
Very, very funny. So, I told you we shouldn't have sold him.
Oh, okay. No.
I
remember now. Who's right? Say who's right. Say Max is right. Max is right.
All right.
But then we, of course, come to the scene where it's like, well, now we have to separate because, it's the third act and I have to leave you behind again only to come back and get you again. Yeah, that scene is there and it's cliched and it's, a little bit of now we have to bog the movie down, which this movie does not need any more bogging down. But, to the film's credit, I feel like because they didn't do the lie revealed thing earlier, I feel like this scene works better because Max, you feel at first like he's begging to stay so he can be in the final fight with Adam. He can continue being with his robot. But as he keeps on talking, you find out that it's not about that. It's not about the robot or the robot fighting or anything. It's about the fact that he just wanted his dad to fight for him.
You deserve better than me. Will you say something, please? I tried, okay? What do you want from me?
I want you to fight for me. That's all I ever wanted.
He didn't want his dad to so easily throw him aside and forget about him again. And you know what? That makes the scene, even though it's formulaic and whatnot, but we'll get into that later, it still makes the scene a little bit more impactful because at least I can get where the character is coming from and it's not as cliched as it could have been. I will say, though, I feel like Charlie really... This character could have been a lot worse. I feel like he works a lot better because it's Hugh Jackman, and Hugh Jackman has that charm where you can feel like he's giving off all the personality of the character, even when he's being like a terrible person, that you at least get where the character is coming from and why he's doing these sort of things, and that when he does feel sorry for it, you would buy that he feels sorry for his actions, which is immensely important because otherwise he just is a douchebag that's just a user. And he is a user. And I actually like how they show how he is a good BSer and is really good at BSing people into getting his way. But there comes a point where it's a breaking point and nobody will rely on him. And you got supporting characters like Anthony Mackie, who just plays like a guy who's playing bets. He shows up in here a lot, actually. But I feel like for the small stuff that they have him doing, I feel like he portrays his character really well. He doesn't really have a whole lot to do. Evangeline Lilly is in this movie, and she is the former girlfriend / childhood friend / her father was his coach, his boxing coach. So I feel like she has a little bit of a good dynamic there, although I feel like her character is a little bit written to just be infatuated with Hugh Jackman's character. And I get that, but I feel like she could have been made a little bit stronger on her own, that she's not fully just infatuated with him. It's not as bad as it could have been, but something that I wish. But I think that she was really good in this movie as well, being supportive and whatnot, but also to a breaking point where she's like, look, I believe in you and I want you to do well, but, there comes a point where I got to take care of myself. But then we got other characters and stuff like this that is really not, like all the other, like the villains, for example, we got a Russian woman who talks like this. Of course, I'm evil because I'm Russian and I talk like this. Then we got like this Asian guy who's just like wearing sunglasses and only takes them off when he's angry. And I want to ask the question, did this movie need to have a villain? Like, I know it needed to have an antagonist, someone to beat, but did it need to have a villain per se? Like someone who's like, I'm evil because my father owns a corporation and my robot is black and green, makes him look really evil. Did we need that? I just wanted, like, I was just thinking, like, why don't you can make him the villain robot intimidating, but did you need to make the people running him evil? They could just be like, hey, look, kid, I mean, it's nothing personal. I don't want to have to break your bot, but you challenged us. You called us out. And now in order to silence you, to show that we are the best, we need to destroy you. It's nothing personal. I don't hate you. In fact, I hope you do well after this. But you stepped up to the champ. Champ's got to knock you down a peg to show you where you belong. I mean, even that sounds a little bit more villainous than I'm trying to come off. But did you need them to be so, like, over the top? And it's like, it's not like they do any evil things other than try to buy Adam before he reaches, like, the head of the tournament or whatever, or like in his first battle in the Robot League. But it seems almost like that. Like, he says, like, they're afraid of what Adam can do. And I'm like, I don't know about that, kid. It feels like more like they feel like he's an insult to be in the major leagues. Because he's just an old sparring bot. We also got Adam, though. And he's not really much of a character. But he's not exactly supposed to be. Like, the boy seems to think, at least internally, that Adam is somewhat alive.
Can you understand me? Don't worry. Your secret's safe with me.
And I think the audience might, some people might think that too. But I like how they don't make it, like, super obvious. It's not like, Short Circuit or Wall-E, where it's like, it's super obvious that this character is alive and has feelings. The character has like a mirror mode where he can move to your emotions and stuff. And I like that because it's like we just see ourselves in the things that mirror us. And maybe maybe the robot is just mimicking the kid's movement, and the kid is like just looking for a mentorship, looking for a guardian, someone to look after him, to take care of him, because he just lost his mother. And maybe that's it, like the robot does keep on getting up seemingly against all odds, but it's like, you know what, maybe that's just the programming it is. Maybe the program's just that good, or maybe there is something deeper beneath the steel. Hello, although I'm just saying, if I thought my robot had real feelings and was alive like a Geth or something, I wouldn't put it in a ring against a giant robotic Terminator. Okay, the Terminator's robotic. Okay, it's like a tank. But that's enough about the characters. Let's move on to the world building. And I have two minds of the world building. On one hand, I like how they kind of keep it just only things slightly improved. We're just in the not too distant future, if you will. It's just a little bit into the future. Most trucks all look the same. They just have a slightly different design. They still have, most of the things are the same. There's just a few improvements here and there. And in one case, I'm like, I wish it was a more interesting looking future, that it didn't fully look like our future. But on the other hand, I kind of like it's in between, it's moving into the future, but it still has a few things of the past. Like it's in a processing stage. The robots all look really interesting, and I do like the way they look. And it's interesting to see, it's like if the Robot Wars went like mainstream and it was like the league #1 sport. The one thing I wonder though is like, was it a mistake to keep it boxing? It's like in terms of fights, the fights all actually look pretty good and whatnot. But I wonder, why are we in a ring? Like if you're gonna do robot fights, go crazy with it. Why is it straight up just boxing? I feel like if I'm seeing two robots fight, I want to see more than just boxing. Especially since most of these robot matches end in the first round, so it's just like, then would it really be the most dominant sport in the world right now? I would have been interested to see if robots had been taking over in other sports too. Is it robot hockey a thing? Is robot basketball or something like that? Just like slam dunk. I don't know. just interesting. It would have been interesting to see if, like, what robot culture seeping into all aspects of the world, not just boxing specifically. You know, it's like if boxing is advancing to using robots, what other things are advancing using robots? Not saying you have to give us like a whole movie series about robots in every single sport, real ice, real net. You know, as like I don't want you to do that. I'm just saying that, you know, if your world is advancing to the point where robots are entering a boxing ring, what else has advanced to the level of robotics? I do like how we see how the robots are controlled. Like, the controllers have like a sort of a stick thing, so if you want to add your individual punches with them, that I think is good. But I don't like how they, like, Hugh Jackman's gets like a voice set where he's like speaking into his ear and is like, right jab, uppercut, uppercut. I'm just like, what? Okay, come on. It's like, how do you control where they move? How do you control where their feet are going at? You need a controller to do more. You need to tell a robot more to do than to punch, unless it's automatic. But that's the thing. I don't really know what the rules of this robot world are. You know, they don't really say, like, is there a limit to the, you know, how heavy they need to be? Is there a limit on what they're allowed to have? Can you make things pointy? Can you give them a sword? I don't know. Obviously, that would be out of the question. But, you know, it's like, I'm not exactly sure what the limitations are and what you're allowed to have and not have. Can you have your robot made out of titanium so he's better allowed to absorb the blows or whatnot? I don't know. And it seems like a lot of people are controlling it, but then, I don't know, it just, I would like to know the rules a little bit more of what this world is. I like the designs of the robots, though. They all have very unique designs. They all have, you know, none of them look the same. I like how Adam has, like, that little mesh thing with his eyes just on the other side of it. Gives him a little bit of a unique look. He might not have that much of a personality, but definitely a unique look.
Uppercut! Zeus is stunned as he reels back from an uppercut that he clearly never saw coming! Advance! Right back! Counter right! Right back!
Now it's time to move on to the story part of the review, where I want to focus more on what the story has brought to the table. The biggest problem, though, with the story is its structure is basically a typical, I'm a bad father, but I learned to become a good father through spending time with my son on this one activity. The activity this time happens to be robot boxing. But then I have to leave the son because I'm not a good father. But then I come back because I want to be a good father. And then, you know, the other elements of the stories are cliched like that. I mean, the writing, sometimes it just is super, like, its way to introduce characters is just really bad. Like, we find out that the kid's mother's sister's husband is rich by her just saying it out loud for no really apparent reason.
As I've already told you, my husband, Marvin, is wealthy, and we can more than provide for Max.
Your Honor, my husband's wealthy, so everybody knows that my husband's wealthy. Everybody, you got that? Cut that down. It's very important. He's wealthy. And then there's also stuff that doesn't really make sense. Like, there's a moment in the film where he makes a bet with this one guy at the beginning of the film, then he welshes on it, runs away, and then the guy comes back at the end, beats him and his kid up, and then takes his money. And steals his money. And then the next scene, I'm like, okay, they're going to be filling out a police report? Nope, he's just, like, recuperating in the back of his trailer. I'm like, what? This isn't like they were jumped with masks. They know who did it. We got 2 witnesses. This is dumb. He stole your money. You owed him about, like, $10,000, $20,000, but they definitely stole more than that. So what the heck are you on about? Go to the police! I will say, though, I think one of the biggest problems with this story is that, oh my gosh, is this long? It's 2 hours long. I think they didn't need to be this long. Like, this is an hour-and-a-half movie tops. But I think that it's just there's so much that they want to do, and they're like, yes to everything. Yes to this, yes to this, yes to this. And I feel like it really drags on, and by the end of it, I'm just like, okay, let's just do the final fight and get this. And when the final fight does happen, I think it's at this moment where I realize I don't think robot boxing is as intense as human boxing. And the reason is I don't care about Adam as a character. You know, if you can make robots relatable, look at WALL-E. When WALL-E's crushed and then his memory is damaged in WALL-E, I am like heartbroken, okay? I am like freaking out when I first saw that. I don't care about Adam. I'm like, okay, if Adam gets destroyed, it's not the worst thing in the world. And so when he keeps on falling down, and I'm like, get up! I'm like, it's not the same, you know? You need, like, for a movie like, I don't know, Rocky or Creed, when they're, like, out on the ground, you're like, get up! You're right there with them. And here it's like, oh, he's down. And he's up. Oh, he's down again. And he's up. And he's down. Okay. I like it's just it's not as impactful, and it's not as you know, like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Because unless he like rips Adam's head right off, it's like it doesn't feel like it's all that great. I also wonder why, and this isn't necessarily a con of the movie, but why did they go the Rocky road? You might ask, what are you talking about? Why didn't Adam win?
The fight 47-46 for the winner and still world robot boxing champion,
Let's be clear here, guys. Sure, you have a few swears and whatnot, but this is a movie you're making for younger kids and whatnot. You know, this is a movie not made for adults. This isn't a movie where like you are so supposed to take it super seriously. It still is an enjoyable family flick, is what it's supposed to be. So why didn't you have Adam win? Why did you go the ways like, hey, you just went the distance and that's good enough? And I don't get that, because at least that was Rocky's goal in Rocky. In the movie Rocky, he said, I can't beat him, but I just want to go the distance. I want to go all the way to the final round. Where this movie, he's like, them going the distance, the kids are like, what does that even mean? I don't even get that. Like, why didn't you just have him win? There's no real reason for him not to win, other than we're trying not to be cliched like other movies. Well, okay, you can't just stop now and not be cliched. You've been cliched the rest of the movie. You can't just stop and say, okay, we're not going to be cliched now. Come on, guys. But now we come to the main point of this review. Is this worth remembering? I'm not going to give these movies a rating out of 1 to 10 because, you know, stuff like this is older movies, like that is just subjective. I'm just going to ask, is this movie worth remembering, and should maybe you check it out? I say, yes, this movie is worth remembering, but why? Why is this movie worth remembering? The bots. I didn't really talk about too much about this, but my gosh, it was such a breath of fresh air to see actual bots. Like, these were, most of the, I mean, like, there was CGI, don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of real props, and because of that, I felt more invested into the character, even when they were CGI, because I felt that real connection, because I knew a lot of times they were there. They were actually there in the building with them. When they lift up a hood and stick something inside, I feel like it's really there. And when the character is moving around and they have the puppets, I feel like those are really there. And because of that, I feel more connected to the action and what's going on. And it feels more real. It really does. There's no other way to say it. Nobody does this anymore. Nobody does this anymore. And you know who's the same for this? Steven flippin' Spielberg. You know, I was going to say when I saw that his name was on the executive producer of this film, that, you know, executive producer for Steven Spielberg, that means nothing. It means he wrote a check and did nothing. But no, for this, he said, you know what? I worked on Jurassic Park. I know what makes good movies with using CGI creations. You need to have real stuff there too. You know, you need to have that there. And he's right. And the movie is definitely better for it. These boxing matches feel more intense and more grounded because you feel like the robots could actually be there. Now, they're not always there. I feel like the last robot, Zeus, is like not even there at all. But But a lot of the time when the robots are there, it feels really good. And so I definitely, at the very least, if you're not interested in checking out this movie, I get it. It's a long movie and it might not be for everyone. But I suggest that if you're at least interested in the robot boxing matches, maybe look them up on YouTube. Look up those individual scenes. Those are very well done. And I think for that reason, Real Steel is worth being remembered. Maybe not worth being hailed as one of the greatest classics of all time, but it's worth being remembered. In any case, thanks for watching, everybody. I am Lazy. Bye. Be sure to check out some of these other videos on my channel. And wait for more coming soon.